Today, we're delighted to have with us Claudia Juech. She's the founding CEO of the Cloudera Foundation, which is based in Silicon Valley. Working with partners around the globe, her team supports large-scale, data-driven opportunities to address the world's pressing challenges in any area of critical need, such as in health, the environment, economic inequality, education, and more. She is pioneering a foundation model that combines intellectual capital and private sector expertise with grants to help nonprofits realize impactful data capabilities. Previously, Claudia was an executive at Rockefeller Foundation and Deutsche Bank. So at this point, I will hand it over to Claudia, who will take it from here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Laura. Thanks so much for the kind introduction, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, this should be here. Let me know if you can see it. Looks good. So you already heard, I'm currently the CEO of the Cloudera Foundation, but in my previous role, I was the head of strategic insights at the Rockefeller Foundation. And there I was responsible for identifying big ideas and interventions that could be developed into a $100 million initiative for the Rockefeller Foundation. And as my team and I were investigating opportunities to make a difference on food security or energy poverty and youth unemployment and other complex challenges, one possible lever came up time and time again, the use of data. And seeing that potential contribution data use can make to achieving impact on large-scale problems was really what drew me to my current role as the CEO of the Cloudera Foundation. The Cloudera Foundation is unique in the sense that we only focus on the nonprofit use of data. We were established in 2017, and since then, my colleagues and I have spoken with more than 300 nonprofit organizations across the globe and across many sectors. Those conversations have truly informed and guided the model that we are using today, which focuses not only on the successful completion of data projects, but also, and equally important, on building the capacity and strengthening the data capacity within our grantee organizations. So I said earlier that the potential of data to make progress on complex problems was really what brought me to this field. For those of you in the audience, and I understand those are many who are data scientists and data analysts, that won't be a big revelation. But for those of you who work at nonprofits, regardless of your size, this will likely raise many questions ranging from where to start to how to use data responsibly. And all of those questions are valid. So what do I mean when I say data? I mean, nonprofits have collected information on beneficiaries, a word that I'm not particularly like, but use as a placeholder for something better, and donors have used that information for decades, mainly for monitoring and evaluation purposes. But when I'm thinking of the potential of data, I'm thinking of a true step change in terms of the volume of data when we use sensors, for example, to collect data and information on soil quality, its velocity when we look at financial transactions taking place every second to improve the financial inclusion of women, and variety, our ability, and combine that information with satellite images and census databases. We have more data and we have more ways to use it beyond crunching numbers in Excel and creating Venn diagrams. This means that in the ideal case, we can have better evidence faster on what works and what doesn't, leading to more efficient delivery of services, nimbler course corrections, and perhaps a shorter time to impact. These new data capabilities also offer an opportunity to use new types of data and or combine different types of data to generate insights. For example, to fill in gaps in areas where the availability of data has been a challenge. And I mean, even though we are talking about exploding data volumes, that is not always the case for all the regions we work in, or where data has been hard to collect, for example, in regions affected by conflict. This can help us understand complex problems better, and therefore we may be better able to address what's causing them sooner. We may no longer be required to wait 20 years or to have 20 years of longitudinal data to back a hunch about a critical but slow-moving threat. It can also help to identify and target who is most at risk and direct limited resources more effectively. Personally, I'm very excited about opportunities to detect patterns that weren't visible using earlier methods to generate truly new insights and ways to solve problems. For example, human trafficking organizations have found new ways to use data on illicit financial flows to identify human trafficking hotspots, something that would not have been possible only a decade ago. You get the sense that I'm passionate and enthusiastic about the potential for the expanded use of data in the nonprofit space, but I'm also a realist and a practitioner. For the use of complex data, it's still early days in the nonprofit sector. For example, there are different ways to categorize analytical approaches. One way to talk about it is descriptive, to call them descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. Most of the more than 300 nonprofit organizations we have talked with over the last 2.5 years use data for descriptive analysis, which aims to answer the question, what happened? Did more patients show up for their appointments when they received a specific wording of a text message? This is a good entry point for nonprofits and still within the organizational comfort zone of using data for evaluation and monitoring purposes. Predictive analytics, which tries to answer the question, what might happen, is already much less common. Examples of use cases include forecasting disease outbreaks, areas of droughts and water pump failure, or the most secure roads to deliver food and medication in an active conflict zone. Prescriptive analytics suggests an action based on that forecast. Basically, the question here is, what should we do if this happens? There are only few nonprofit organizations who are exploring the use of prescriptive analysis. For example, to look into suggesting different treatment options for addicts, depending on their individual circumstances, location, and the success rates of people with a similar personal history and characteristics. All three of these approaches have data privacy and governance implications that will need to be explored and managed as appropriate for each and every specific data use case. Predictive and prescriptive analytics in particular will require to work to understand whether the data is a fair representation of the communities you want to serve, which, like other steps in the data journey, will demand active involvement of those communities, which also means the community members must be informed about and trusting of your processes. If your project benefits from the application of more advanced data analytics, you will likely need a certain volume and data from reliable sources to be able to make predictions that hold up in the real world. Sample size does matter. What else do you need to keep in mind when you are considering a data project? Again, as a realist and practitioner, and especially during a pandemic that affects nonprofit funding left and right, take the time to tease out why the data use case is important to your program / your organization. What is the problem that you are trying to solve? How does data relate to it? Do you have access to the necessary data? Developing a hypothesis of how data could assist you in achieving impact will require practical work and someone within your organization who knows the data, who understands its cleanliness, its gaps, its representativeness of the data sets in question. We at the Cloudera Foundation are supporting this type of work through a new program called the Data for Change Accelerator. In the Accelerator program, we are working with nonprofit organizations for 6 months on testing that type of hypothesis that I just described. But while we provide expertise, technology, and financial support as needed, I want to emphasize that the grantee organization will do most of the work, because only you know the problem and only you know your data inside out. That's one reason. The other reason is that at the end of the 6 months project, we want to leave the grantee organization in a better position than before, with stronger and more advanced data capabilities so that you can continue to work on your data problem and continue to iterate on it, since data challenges often require many iterations. I saved the most important point for last. We have done theory of change exercises with nonprofits specifically focused on data use. And while participants could often articulate the data questions, speak to the necessary data sets and so on and so forth, they couldn't always make a strong case of why governments, patients, or other beneficiaries would take action on data. Or in other words, what incentives will really trigger different behaviors across all stakeholders, including beneficiaries and key decision makers, in light of new evidence. Ultimately, as my friend Stefan Freiholz from GovLab always says, there's a lot to consider when using data, not least the risk associated with not using it. Thank you, and I look forward to the panel discussion later on.